Hi, how's it in the name of Christ? How you doing? It's your girl Cake Karabo. I hope you're good, I hope you're peachy, I hope you're stellar, and I hope you're in a neat little bunch. If you're not, welcome to the party. It is what it is. Everybody is broken, I think. Today is the 21st of February 2024. Look at how time has progressed. And look at the growth on my head after 3 weeks of having these braids in. And I am not removing them any minute now. They're just gonna keep there. They're gonna stay and stay and stay. It's a strange day. So let me just put some caveats out there. Kindly note that I am using captions that are automatically generated, so they're not always accurate. They sometimes use a small g for God. They're not very reverential, or they're misspelled, or it's the wrong word altogether, something of that nature. I don't have an editor, I don't have anybody to help me along, so for those reasons we keep them. Secondly, I may or may not be wearing application makeup. If I'm not, then never mind. If I am, you will know, because it'll just keep bouncing off and on my face. I'm not shape-shifting, I'm experimenting. Okay, and then a segment in my ministry. I like it, I like it, I like it. I don't actually. I like it because it's adorable. I think it's cute, but at the same time, I just sometimes don't have the energy to be doing this, but we do it anyway. So like basically I like squeeze my cheeks. I'm only human after all, I'm only human after all, I'm only human after all, blah blah, to show that when you prick me, I bleed. Booyah. The aim was to blush my cheeks. Some days it works out better than others, so I don't know, maybe it's because I'm wearing a red top that doesn't show so much. If you slap me, I will probably cry. Anyway, moving on. I've already given the date, have I? Whew, it's hot. It's summer. End of summer though, but it's still summer, quite hot. Soon it'll be autumn and my life will be a lot better. Because when it's cooler, it's just things work out better for me. There's less insects, there's less heat, yeah, just atmospheric disturbances that I can't deal with. So yay, come winter come. And there's also a lot more for me to wear in terms of clothes. More trouble. Don't know why I have more winter stuff than summer, but you get my point. Anyway, right. Okay, so yeah, yo, I'm suffering. I've been suffering for a minute. I am so incredibly insecure. I'm so scared. I am so scared. Like I've been traumatized for so long that I've just been through such a peak and such a trough of a 10-year cycle of psychosis on the part of people that whenever I get gains, I'm scared to celebrate them because I don't know if they're gonna last. Yesterday I spoke about that briefly. I basically highlighted that I noticed that my stats are growing. I'm getting subscribers, and by noticed, I don't look at my numbers. I still don't look at my stats, still to this day. But every so often when people subscribe to you on YouTube, you get an email. Yeah, you get an email in the email address that's linked to your YouTube channel, letting you know that someone has subscribed. And I've been getting quite a few of those emails telling me that overall I've grown in subscriber numbers. I can't tell you where I'm standing, and I'm not even trying to look because I don't want to be hurt, okay? But I'm scared to hope and think that this is just going to be a thing that keeps happening. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm nervous to imagine that this is going to be something that's just gonna keep happening, because yo, hey man, this world is just intensely evil. It's barbarically evil. People are barbarically evil, and by barbarically evil I mean kind of like, you know, just absolute no regard for what's gonna happen to the world at large when you're like that. When you're so self-consumed, so self-absorbed that you cannot do even one small little calculation as to what would be the likely ramifications of your actions in the long run and for your entire ecosystem. In other words, your whole city, your whole country. When you don't take into consideration such calculations as those, it just gets really exhausting to have to think about such people. Just thinking about them, because yeah, no, there's more of them than frankly any of us ought be comfortable with, but it is apparently what it is. However, by the amazing grace of God, I really do like the work that I do, so nothing can ever make me stop. Nothing can ever make me leave here, even if I suddenly get frozen again, if I don't gain numbers again, if it just goes dead quiet again. I love what I do, and I've got so much of it in me. What am I hearing? Oh goodness. I love what I do, and I've got so much of it in me that I frankly can never run out. Who is it? Yeah, anyway, I'm back. I do not understand what's going on. Look, ultimately, something's gonna give, alright? I am tormented. You know what I need? I need to, I don't even know if it's a thing, but like, I desperately need to find out that crazy people are crazy in a way that is observable by the world. Like, I need that to happen, because what happens in an environment when people are crazy, guys? What happens? Usually people ignore crazy people. Like, when there is a psychosis obviously ruminating in the sky, people tend to, for good reason, avoid the crazy person. I need to know that people can ignore crazy people, because it appears as if though these crazy people with all of their darkness, these Satanists, these witches, like, they're getting listened to, they're getting taken seriously, and people are responding to them. And it's just the most bizarre thing. When I was growing up, there was a crazy man in my neighborhood. He was obviously mentally ill. I apologize, lighting just got adjusted there because of my application in the background. Video editing application, just like it didn't crash. I force quit it because it was just like slow. So I'm reopening it. As soon as it's open again, lighting should return to slightly dimmer than this. This is too bright, but I don't want to adjust there because it's gonna mess with the original settings. Yeah, let me tell you the story. There was, when I was growing up in Soweto, Kotladi, Soweto, there was this man, very crazy man. There was a man in the neighborhood that had a mental illness. It was very clear. He used to walk around Kadihopo, Nimbambo, bare-chested. He used to walk around bare-chested, like whether it's winter, summer, it didn't matter. Bare-chested, barefoot. He actually had somewhere where he lived, like family, but you would have imagined, you would have believed that he was a hobo, but he wasn't. He had a family. He had where he came from. So his disheveled state, his dirty state, and his clothing was not evidencing or representing a man that has a home to go back to, a shirt he can wear, shoes he can wear. He used to walk around barefoot and bare-chested. Thankfully, however, he would always have shorts on or pants on, so I guess he wasn't crazy enough to be completely naked in society. But if he did get completely naked, he would have probably been apprehended very quickly. He used to walk around just staggering in the streets, and whenever he would approach or impede children, kids in the neighborhood, we just used to run because we did not know what could come out of him. There were rumors that every so often he slaps people when they talk to him, you know, basically just accosts them, gets violent, so people used to avoid him. No one stood with him and had a conversation indefinitely with him. He was just left to roam the street freely, right? People would allow him the liberty to do that, but whenever he would walk, it's like pathways would be opened by people to allow him to walk, and nobody would stand in his way. No one would stand in his way, so as to eliminate the possibility of some incident occurring. That man was mentally ill. Yeah, undiagnosed, of course, because you know the black community and mental health have not really been the best of friends for a very long time. And now when I was growing up, that was what, the 80s, early 90s, so it was especially not a thing that we were trying to get looked at by doctors. Yeah, well, that guy was a whole feature that existed in our community, and the common treatment of his person, or the common agreed mindset between everybody concerning him, was just let him exist. Don't poke and prod away at him, don't tease him, don't diss him, don't mock him. When he's walking towards you, shift right, shift left, or shift right, but do not stand in his way, because you might get yourself hurt. And so we were largely able to live at peace as a community, having a crazy man around, because we left him in his crazy state and did not step on his toes at all. He mumbled a lot when he was walking around. Yeah, despite his mumbling, no one was trying to hear what he was saying, because everybody knew that he was crazy. He had a mental illness. He was just allowed to exist, and that was it. Okay? That's how, when there is an undiagnosed mental illness in the room, and when there are no medical professionals coming to the rescue, when there is no intervention feasible for now that can be employed concerning a mental patient, that is roaming the streets, however undiagnosed. The best strategy by your society to deal with these mentally ill people is to not stand in their way. Just let them mumble, let them grumble, let them groan and grunt. Let them do whatever it is that within their insanity, their body is voluntarily or involuntarily moving them to do. Let them carry on in that stead. And don't stand in their way if at all you're going to minimize potential casualties in the community. If you don't want children getting hurt, if you do not, if you don't want children getting hurt, if you don't want to get accosted, if you don't want to be wrestled by someone that's not thinking straight, so it could even be unto death, just leave them be. That ought to be the survival protocol employed by individuals of that community. Until further notice, until there is intervention, until the man is removed from the streets and placed in some kind of a psychiatric hospital and enabled medically to come right, to get better. Until such time that everybody can find a solution for this man that is workable and healthy even for him. Largely, the only and best way that we all gonna survive this human being is ignore them and just don't stand in their way. I thoroughly, for the life of me, do not understand why the world of human beings around the kingdom of darkness, men and women in the occult, why they don't just do that with the witches, why they do not just ignore them. Let them do what they want to do because they're going to carry on doing it prior to intervention being employed, prior to solutions being found, prior to a diagnosis being coined, pegged, or even a prognosis. Society should attempt to survive witches by simply ignoring them, by not standing in their way, by moving left or right when they impend, and by not even trying to hear what they say when they're busy mumbling. Because if you attempt to have a conversation with them, you are putting yourself in harm's way. Guys, you know what, y'all might be thinking, I'm doing my edits just in case you're wondering. I apologize if I'm a little bit distracted. Y'all might be thinking I focus too much of my attention on sorcery or on witches, but it's not even that I focus too much of my attention on it. It's that God has made me pay a lot of attention to it, because there are not sufficient people talking about just how egregious the affliction on society, the deeds of these people are. They are destructive, guys. They're manipulating souls, manipulating minds. They're taking people to hellfire in drones on the daily. And there was a time in history when people largely did exactly what I'm saying. It was reasonable and rational in society to just step out of the way of a charging, demon-possessed person spouting accusations out of their mouths or incantations against you, cursing you, speaking profanities and heinous intentions like they're normal. They were largely regarded as insane, and people told themselves that ignorance is bliss. Just avoid. And if you can avoid them, you will be largely okay. Just don't stand in their way. Don't step on their toes. As soon as one discovers that that's what this human being is, avoidance would be the healthy decision made in the environment. Avoidance becomes the only decision that is feasible in the environment, absent of intervention, absent, in other words, of a solution. So before a psychiatric, battalion of men and women that are here to collect all the crazies in society and put them away for good, feeding them drugs for life, until there can be some feasible intervention against them, the rest of the world around them should save themselves from potential destruction by simply avoiding them. I promise you, if enough people avoided witches and witchcraft, if enough people, upon suspecting somebody of performing this stuff, if they merely just stood back, moved out the way, don't say anything, don't accost them, don't fight them, don't approach them, just let them merely exist, they would not have the kind of power that they have had on the earth right now. I feel as if though they're able to exert as much influence over the world precisely because literally they're being humored. People are having entire conversations with them, like individuals that have been found with their hands in the cookie jar. It is clear that they're involved in something diabolical, and yet, despite the clarity of their involvement in darkness, they're being humored. The Bible says this just in case you think I'm picking a fight with people unnecessarily and I'm being unbiblical. In so picking a fight of that nature, I'm not picking a fight, I'm highlighting a challenge, an issue. I have tried to let people know that there is a solution in Christ against these witches, but nobody is trying to go to Jesus. But even in history, where people did not go to Jesus, insofar as they just avoided witches, their societies were relatively safe, because it's almost as if though they get fired up to continue in their ludicrous agendas and actually succeed to afflict people because they're being given attention. I just feel as if though the best thing that can be done for these human beings to seek out the help that they need, because frankly they're psychopaths. The best thing that can be done in the run-up to them finally either repenting and giving their lives to Christ, or their victims finding breakthrough in Christ, because that's the psychiatric hospital. That is the solution. The workforce of psychiatric hospital staff members, nurses and doctors, it's Christians, but y'all are not trying to listen to us. So just like it was the case in Kotladi, Soweto, with the one crazy guy, there was no Sterkfontein coming for that guy. There was nobody to actually effect any kind of medical attention on this guy coming. So our strategy was to just avoid the crazy man. That's what we did, and it worked swimmingly. I am alive today to tell the story. All of my friends when we were playing also were alive to tell the story. Nobody, largely people that avoided that man, since then they're alright today. They made it. But there are others who gave testimonies of being slapped by him. There are others who gave testimonies of being pushed, shoved, just endangered in some way because this person was not in their right mind. This is biblical, to avoid them. And listen to what I'm saying. Heed me. I'm exhausted because I keep on dreaming about them, even though I appear to be getting my YouTube channel restored. But I don't even... I'm fretful. I'm scared that even my hope for restoration in light of my channel, this thing that's happening presently, I am nervous that I'm going to be dealing with these people now that they see that Ebatun, she's gaining subscribers. They then gonna come at me again like a crazy person, just wielding a knife and then just darting, almost like they're playing like on a dartboard with little arrows in a bar, and they're just darting at people. Incontinent, and some of them are self-practicing. They're sitting in their own apartments doing the stuff. So it is especially taxing with them because they don't have to part ways with any amount of money in order to cast a spell. They just gather up a couple of kitchen ingredients and do some incantations, burn a couple of things over their unfortunate stove, and here it is that a spell has been cast on a completely ignorant human being that does not know that somehow their life is being changed by somebody spiritually. Witchcraft works. That's why this is so dangerous. If it was just a sport and the thing that Disney has reduced it to, then there would be no need for me to speak these things. But it does actually work. Otherwise, big fat chunky grown-ups, adults over the age of 18 would not be so besotted with it. People into ill-gotten gain adore it because it enables them to remain anonymous, unseen, albeit effecting things that they've always wanted spiritually. It helps them steal without putting fingerprints on anything. It helps them murder without the smoking gun. It helps them get away with everything that is nefarious that they could ever conjure up. There are people who therefore can do nothing but survive and thrive other than through the stuff. It works. Let that be the first thing that we're going to put out there. So, seeing as it works, why do people not imagine it's worth their while to invest on covering and protecting themselves from this thing? Why do people not see it as a necessary life mission to dedicate much of their whole future plan to surviving? Spiritual manipulators that trust that because there is no smoking gun over the cadavers they have strewn on the street, that they're going to get away with murder. They rely on it all throughout their lives, and therefore all throughout their lives they destroy lives. It's therefore worthy of being spoken about. This is what the Bible has to say about the righteous man. I'm trying to call people to Christ because frankly there's no other way to survive this thing but in Jesus. I might appear to be under spells, but understand that I am only conquering in Christ and going through my tests and tryings. I have survived quite a lot. As a result, these people won't leave me alone. I have a spiritual gifting, and so therefore I keep getting bombarded by sightings of their naked deeds in the cosmos, and it is disturbing to say the least. They are making it hard for me to find joy in joyful things, because when are you gonna stop? Do you not see that I'm covered by the blood of Jesus? The Bible says in the first Psalm, which is what it is that I'm hoping people are going to get themselves looking like, that they might conquer this. So essentially there be divine intervention where before you were just ignoring them, but right now you're not ignoring them. So I'm trying to help whoever will spot this for what it is and seek out the requisite assistance in the only place where it is that you can find a solution against this thing. The first Psalm says, blessed is the man. Let's start again. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. But the wicked are not so. They are like the chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not be able to stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. The way of the wicked will perish, but the way of the righteous endures forever. Let's go back to the first 3 verses of that particular psalm. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is on the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He's like a tree, planted by streams of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. They say that again. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But he delights on God's law, meditates on it day and night, and whose leaf, and everything that they do, they prosper, whose leaf does not wither. You get my point. I'm trying to make a point here. What it is that I just said now about ignoring these randos is not unbiblical, because someone recommends it. It comes highly recommended. I suppose the Lord, through the psalmist, might have seen it fit to recommend in that regard, because he knew that the road is narrow, that leads to life, and only few people find it. The way is hard. And so with there being so few people actually being in Christ, we are going to live in a society of people that are humoring people they ought not humor, because they lack wisdom. It's written in God's word that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One brings understanding. So when you know God, you gain wisdom. Wisdom is not the equivalent of intelligence, of natural intelligence. Natural intelligence helps you equate mathematical sums, whereas wisdom enables you to piece together the matters of this earth in all of their grandiosity and come up with a viable solution for us all. Wisdom is the thing that makes you a cut above the rest. You do not need natural intelligence to be wise. You don't even need to know how to read or write in order to be wise. So for those reasons, wisdom is more precious than gold in the sight of God. It is a lofty ambition that all human beings ought to desire. And there is no acquiring it apart from fear of God, apart from redemption. If you're not born again, you cannot be truly wise. You can only have a foolishness of worldly philosophers that is, however, considered wise by a global citizenship. The world might regard you and think, my goodness, you're so smart. But God Almighty will imagine you a fool of fools when you don't have piety, when you're not Christian, when you're not born again, when you are not a believer in your Creator. You are as good as mindless. It's literally that basic. So when you have that wisdom, you therefore survive, dodge bullets that come your direction from an angle that is always just unleashing bullets from its core. You dodge those bullets in a way that literally nobody else does. Everybody else on earth humors a cantankerous, ravenous beast. Everybody else calculates that it's worth their while to have certain conversations because they, in their own strength, imagine that they've got it tomorrow. Do you understand what I'm saying? The world hates disciples. The world hates God. We are born dead in trespasses and sins, and in sins that our parents conceive us. There is none of us, therefore, that does good from the very get-go, not even one. All of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All of our righteous works are like filthy rags. Our hearts are deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. There's really no good thing that can come from us. And apart from us being trained by our creator to be wiser than the regular brute beast of a wannabe human on earth, we are essentially just kind of massacred from the get-go, meaning that we will entertain marvelous beasts in these streets when they ought not be spoken to. The moment you decide to go and dance with the devil, why under heaven should any human being on the earth speak to you? Why is that even a thing? When you dance with the devil, you know what it is the equivalent to? Imagine a man walking into a restaurant full of restaurateurs, people eating, whatever, and then just shoots dead 20 people on contact. And because he has shot 20 people in cold blood, with everybody seeing him shoot them, there then comes from one corner of the restaurant one naive little wimp saying, hey, if I become super close to this person and become their bosom buddy, I will avoid being killed. Everybody else that does not humor this guy is basically facing death, because the best way out of this is to humor the guy that just killed 20 people. I don't want to die. And then you go and you make a friend out of a murderer. And then somehow strangely, 2 hours later, with the blood coagulating around the victims that have been killed, everybody in that restaurant that is now officially a hostage ends up warming up to this criminal only because one person first started warming up to them, and then they all are having conversations with him around dead bodies. They then all are comforted by the fact that he appears to be not so bad after all, because here it is that he hasn't killed the remaining 20 people in the restaurant. And by the time that this whole debacle ends and the police apprehend the said criminal, there is a severity of Stockholm syndrome in 20 people that saw a man kill 20 people, and some of them made friends with their killer. The devil is like a hostage taker that kills people in front of you. But over the years, upon him offering you gains that you have not waited on the Lord for, you imagine he's not so bad after all. He might have killed people in front of you, but if you just make him your friend, you will be less likely to end up dead like all these other 20 people. He's exotically coercive to bringing people into the kingdom of darkness, and those that end up capitulating to him tend to do so out of fear of, one, becoming the victim of the devil themselves, and two, suffering want and loss for refusing to humor the devil. He is full of coercion, and there is evidence mounting. It is voluminous in these streets to display that he is a bad guy. He is a terrible guy. Everybody should essentially want nothing to do with him, but he strangely prospers to cajole people into believing that he is a viable option. The human race is suffering from a severity of Stockholm syndrome where the devil is concerned. He is holding people hostage that have seen him devastate their lives. Do you understand? And yet they keep on latching onto him, bosom buddying him, chest bumping, kissing him, hugging him, holding hands, and even laying with him in bed at night. That is what people are doing with the prince of the power of the air. This will not end well. It is a hostage-taking situation. Because of the dire situation, therefore, that it is, it will ultimately be apprehended by the police. And when they come, nobody will be able to stand, especially those hostages that made a decision to band with the original hostage taker. When you decide to become an accomplice to the works of the devil, when you decide to make yourself an accessory, you will not escape when the full wrath of the law is being effected in this particular ecosystem. The police in question, of which are a combination of angels of God, saints of the living God, basically heaven's legions, and of course God himself. He ultimately apprehends the one who murdered all those 20. He apprehends the one who threatened the remaining 20. He gives justice to everybody, do you understand? Alongside apprehending everyone that participated in the mutiny against a said ecosystem. How in the world you gonna go trust the guy that murdered your child right in front of you? The devil steals and he kills and he destroys, and people in the occult are absolutely aware of the theft, the murder, and the destruction that the devil employs in their ecosystem. They're aware of it. Half the time why people even consult demonic entities to get anywhere at all is because of some kind of lack in their lives. I do not know very many people who choose the kingdom of darkness on a happy day just because it is what it is. When everything is running swimmingly and everybody is loving them bountifully. I do not know many people, if at all, that have made a decision to choose the kingdom of darkness in the pink of health. Usually, when it comes to all their affairs, matters, be it financial, be it familial, be it academic, whatever, usually people turn to the darkness when there is a need. The devil works on that which we need. It is written in God's word that we must seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, and everything else, therefore, that we need will be added to us. He tells us that even the pagans need all of these things that we need. We need clothes, we need food, we need hair product, we need toothbrushes, we need love, respect, mercy, joy. We need to basically fill the earth and occupy it. God knows we need these things. And then he says that if a wicked father can award a good gift to his children, how much more will the Heavenly Father give you the Holy Spirit if you ask him? Will a dad here on earth give his son a snake when he asks for a fish? No, of course not. So then, of course, the Lord gives good and perfect gifts, right? That come from above and are from the Father of heavenly lights. The Lord is the be-all and end-all of a provider. So if you end up getting provided to, the originator of that provision was God. He's the one that moved into the heart of whomever it is that made your life better provided for. He takes care of us by providence. If you then make a decision to help the hand of God along and invest in darkness in order to get that which belongs to God to give, you're putting yourself in harm's way. If you're in lack, if you're in want, you need to wait on the Lord that you might be extricated from that particular lack and that particular want. Jesus is the one that called us to call on him when we labor and are heavily laden, that we must ask and we will receive, that we must seek and we will find, that we must knock and the door shall be opened. He's the one that said, if he abides in us and his words abide in us, if we abide in him and his word abides in us, anything we ask for in his name will ultimately be awarded us. However, he does also make it clear in Galatians 5 that we have got to be patient through the fruit of the Holy Spirit in just about everything. Not just Galatians 5, but the Bible is littered with passages on perseverance, long-suffering, fortitude, forbearance, basically just waiting in piety to get what you need from Jesus Christ. It's littered across the scriptures. Patience is built in us and it therefore produces virtue. God builds character. So when he says, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open, ask and you shall receive, he did not say within 5 seconds. Yes. So the devil knows that the human race struggles with patience because we've got this body of death that we're always warring with, the sinful nature that we are always targeted by. Do you understand? That makes it hard for us to wait for something longer than 5 seconds. We are microwave babies. It has become especially tragic in the 21st century. We want it and we want it now. We want fast internet, fast food, fast everything. And so therefore the Bible becomes what you call archaic when then you are waiting for what you imagine to be much too long for something that should already be here real quick. The devil climbs that wave. He rides it like a horse, knowing the sinful nature of the human being first and foremost, and also knowing the difficulty of the human being to trust God, knowing the impossibility of the human being to choose God unless God draws him to him. Knowing all of these things, he then quickly rocks up like food at McDonald's and offers you a fast service. He tells you, I will give it to you in half the time, in a quarter of the time, an eighth of the time. Heck, I'll even give it to you in a 15th of the time. I will slather all of your enemies on your behalf, and you will be the one to jump the queue, because I'm that guy that can do that. Only test me. He taps on people's shoulders, basically petitioning them or encouraging them to test him. To test to see whether or not they will take this offer up. All that is needed is for you to be prepared to experiment whether or not you are doubtful. However skeptical you might be is irrelevant. All that is important is that you test it. Telling yourself, I've got nothing to lose, so I might as well just see if at all this works. How it is that entry into the kingdom of darkness can be compared is similar to the use of drugs. Many times people do not buy their first line of cocaine. Many times they do not pay for their first ecstasy pill. They do not pay for their first bottle of alcohol. Those who end up becoming alcoholics, they get given a taste to see how this thing works. And then when they get a high from it, when they experience a euphoria from being high, that's when the next time they're prepared to take money out of their own pocket and then buy the drugs or buy the alcohol. That's how substance abuse commences. And just like substance abuse, so too, that is how the occult commences. Oftentimes, people are initiated into the occult by being told, hey, I know someone and it's for free. You don't have to pay a single cent. A favor can be done for you. And when you're told that no cent needs to be paid, or when you're told that it only costs 150 Rand, when you earn 50,000 Rands a month, you will tell yourself that, what's 150? What's 150 Rands? What's 500 Rands? Between me and a future that may or may not come. If it doesn't work, I lose nothing. But if it works, whoa, it works. Your first hit of a drug will be free. The second one, it might even be cheap. But following that, the price continues to increase. And by the end of the day, you've lost your entire soul. It's that basic. So the devil merely gets people curious enough to experiment. And it is upon experimenting that he pulls all of these fireworks then. These displays of magic, these displays of supernatural outcomes, these displays essentially of poltergeist activity in the room. Here it is that stuff is moving without anybody touching it. That is what the devil is into doing. And granted that Satan is that massacreist of note. Granted that the devil is besotted with the prospect of deceiving the human race into selling their souls real quick for quick gain in the midst of a people who struggle to wait. It is no wonder, therefore, that there are so many people in society paying attention to people that ought to be ignored. The moment you decide to play with Satan, you are like one that's playing with a hostage taker. It does not make sense, and yet people be doing it. People be doing it anyway. They get introduced into the occult, and the Lord allows them, because herein lies what God has to say in His word. These human beings have exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and so they give heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of demons. In the last days, it's written in God's word that man will not be able to withstand sound doctrine. And so, having itching ears, they're going to gather for themselves a great number of charlatans to tell them what the itching ears want to hear. They will turn aside to myths and do whatever it is under heaven that they want to do, because they think that Aleister Crowley, this is the whole of the law. They will know what the truth is. The invisible qualities of God, as it is written in Romans 1, will be all over this show. So too will their consciences be speaking volumes. Over and above it, they will have that conviction that they've always had ever since they were a kid, that their child religion, that their grandmother's faith, that their mother's faith, that the faith of their high school, if they went to a Christian school, was the right thing. They will be sitting on all of that conviction and make a decision to suppress it and exchange it for a lie. Thanks to suppressing it, God then hands them over to a debased mind. He gives them over to a strong delusion, so they will continue to believe the lie, since they have not loved the truth but have taken pleasure in their unrighteousness. So, albeit knowing that sorcery is wrong, and albeit knowing that it's so wrong that you shouldn't even dabble with it, as soon as it awards you ill-gotten gain, people just flood into it. Human beings knowing what is right and wrong, inherently the law of God is written on our hearts. They allow themselves to fly with these doctrines, and so therefore get violently deceived. God sends you a strong delusion, sparkles of magic, things that go shiny, however bump in the night. You love them even though all that glitters is not always gold. And in so doing, proliferate so much satanic activity on the planet that those of us who have acquired wisdom don't know whether we're coming or going. We cannot breathe, neither exhale or exhale. We are stranded, asphyxiating from a planet that is choking up with the fumes of the devil in the sky, and there appears to be no room left for us. When Christians are walking around, therefore, wearing hazmat suits, what do you think is going to end up happening to the world? Extraction of who? The restrainer. Believers in the Lord Jesus Christ are just going to get taken out, that you might be awarded your delusive world, that you might be awarded your diluvian world, your flood, that you might be awarded exactly what it is that you want. You knew it was wrong, but you tested it, and the devil hooked you just in the same way that the drug dealer of note hooks you on drugs, that you might keep on coming back and purchasing more and more of them. The devil gets witches in their first spell, and he uses lack, he uses want, he uses poverty, he uses desire. He uses all of these things to hook you in. It's written in God's word that desire, when it is conceived, brings about sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings about death. God says as well that do not say that God has tempted you when you do a strange thing, but rather when your lusts or your desires have been bubbling in your heart for a long amount of time, you then, in pursuit of these desires, effectively sin against God and therefore bring what onto yourself? Death. My point exactly. That's what's happening over here. Your desires lead you to death. Some desires of which are irrational entirely. Why? Because you desire to be better than someone that is better than you. I.E., the woman in school that does better than you. You want to be better than her. And so you thwart her entire acquisition of a degree at a higher learning institution. You desire to be the first one out of your siblings to get married and to get a beautiful career, and so you literally put spells on your own sisters and your own brothers. You desire to be in love with a man, and so you take away his autonomy to choose a bride by spiking him ngezliso, that he might become your husband. You desire, and so it is bringing about sin of which ultimately graduates to death. But it's based on a lack, it's based on a desire, it's based on a want that is present. You're currently unemployed, and given that you don't have a job, you are too frustrated to lean on an invisible God who has told you, seek me first and I will give you a job. You don't want to lean on him. And so somebody tells you, look, especially considering you're poverty stricken, I'll pay for your consultation to go to a sangoma. You then tell yourself, what do I stand to lose? The same soul you claim to have given to Jesus. That's what. You tell yourself, what am I going to lose? This person is offering to pay for my sangoma consultation. It's like someone offering to take you to the hospital when you're sick. Someone offering to pay for your bills when you have got like pneumonia, and then they also pay for your prescription. You tell yourself, I'm coughing it up at home like a storm. What do I stand to lose? Of course, nothing. Because here it is that someone is awarding you something what you call good for free. But you can't compare a sangoma to a doctor's visit when you had no money and was self-medicating with flu mixture, with cough mixture, and some over-the-counter vitamin C tablets and some lozenges. You cannot for the life of you compare somebody offering to take you to the clinic to pay, as you cannot tantamount that activity, I apologize, to consulting a witch doctor, because the one is evil, the one is nefarious. But I'm trying to help you understand just the thought processes that go in people's minds that cause them to end up dabbling with the darkness. They tend to tell themselves that it's as good as going to see any good old-fashioned doctor when I've got bronchitis. No, it's not. God does not condemn medical doctors. God does, however, condemn spiritual doctors if they do not belong to him. Physician, heal thyself. That's what the Lord said about himself. That's what's good. Unless you go to the actual physician spiritually, everybody else is a counterfeit. If it is not through the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes to the Father except through him. It is a counterfeit. If it is not Jesus Christ that you are going through to find your healing, it is not God. It is counterfeit. It is a lie. It is a deception. Do you understand? However, people don't quite trust it that way. You just think that, it's one of the many ways, but that's the very thing that's going to condemn you eternally. You then go on right ahead and consult a huffing puffing sangoma, and through that person who paid for your first consultation, you get a job. You're done for on that day. You're hooked. You were a professing Christian that made a decision to consult the sangoma. Next time you want something, understand you're going to go that route. Next time you're going to take money from your own pocket and pay for it. Next time you are going to afflict people, never mind prospects, for it. In other words, you're not going to go to a sangoma to help you get a job, and so you suddenly get a job interview. This time around, you're going to go to a sangoma to help you get a wife, and so you get Karabo in your life. Stuff like that. It gets more and more taxing, more and more expensive. It chips away at more and more of you. You end up therefore more and more disillusioned from God. And with that fog in your mind where it is that you saw the devil award you what you call a gift, it then becomes super hard next time to get down on those ashy knees of yours and pray to God for the next thing you need. You are going to end up relying on this thing like a hard-knock drug habit. You are going to end up relying on it. However, The devil is the one that steals, he kills, and he destroys. The Bible says that the poverty of the poverty-stricken is their finishing, it's their undoing, it's their unraveling. Essentially, poverty finishes people off. And unless you come to Christ, recognize him for who he is, you will allow poverty to swallow you whole. Poverty is to be prayed out of by Christians to God. And in the duration of time that you're enduring it, you are to take it in piety to God perpetually until you break through. You know that saying, pray until something happens? Yeah, exactly. That's how you get out of poverty. You pray about it until something happens. You do not effect matters in the cosmos using God's enemy to give yourself what you need. Because on that day, you have gone on right ahead to dive your silly little nose into some abysmal space that's going to keep you afflicting your next door neighbors, your colleagues, your sisters and your brothers all around you, because you just can't get enough of ill-gotten gain. You know that the devil has stolen. You have seen what he has done in the past. You have observed how he has robbed you of much, and yet you go and you hang 10 with him. Like that scenario I came up with of the man killing so many people in a restaurant, and then some buffoon in a corner making a decision to become a wizard, because herein lies the deal. Absent of me becoming a wizard, I might also become a cadaver. The Bible says, to live is Christ, but to die is gain. And precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. So when you are offered wizardry in exchange for your soul, in order that you might eradicate, I guess, your poverty, you ought to respond to the devil by saying, to live is Christ, but to die is gain. I guess this poverty is what it is that I will take in my stride. You must respond like Job. You must say, naked I came into this world, and naked shall I leave. God gave, now God has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And then give the devil a peace sign. That's what you must do. And when you do not do that, you display with your behavior that you were never of God. It's that basic. You are Demas, you leave because you were never of us. And so, when the Lord rejects you upon the righteous, therefore now congregating, you will not be among them. You will not be able to stand in the judgment, O sinner. Neither will you be able to congregate with the righteous, O wicked man. Because that's what the first psalm says. Why? Because you stood in the way of sinners, you sat in the seat of scoffers, and you, blessed is the man and you walked in the counsel of the wicked. You did not delight in God's law, on whose law you ought to have meditated day and night. Because if you had allowed the word of God to ruminate through your veins, you would have used the scriptures to demolish the arguments that made you believe that you need to compromise with the devil to get any semblance of a normal life at all. You were supposed to demolish arguments and every lofty pretension that exalts itself above the Most High, and hold into captivity every thought to the obedience of Jesus Christ. You were supposed to say, naked I came into this world, naked shall I leave. You were supposed to say, nothing shall ever separate me from the love of God, not even angels or demons. In other words, that which steals, kills, and destroys, it ought not separate me from God, including poverty. Nothing should have made you walk away from God, but you walk away from him, albeit having observed. Evidence is just dog walking at you, beating like a heart, a broken one, and that the devil is a thief, he steals, kills, and destroys, and then you imagine that he can actually bless. You imagine that he can actually give, that he can cater to you like a wedding reception. You imagined that Satan can actually give you bread when he is in the business of parching souls. He's in the business of vomiting a person in order that they might have no more food left in their stomach. He makes the human race bulimic. You eat and then you vomit. 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 There is nothing you can ever acquire from the devil that you are not going to ultimately either vomit or spill it out of the other side through diarrhea, but it will not get absorbed into your bloodstream. He cannot nourish. He is a thief by nature, a liar and murderer from the beginning, lies from his own devices, his own members, his own faculties. He just can do nothing but breed a fib. And you run with this guy that's telling you, I can give you bread. He cannot manufacture bread. He can only give you an optical illusion, a mirage in a desert of bread. And so ultimately you will discover that you are parched. Ultimately you will discover that you are famished, ravenously at that. At some point you're going to see that you are emaciated, that you, thanks to being so bulimic, have never even gained a single kilogram in your life. Why? Because you were never nourished. You're going to discover that, however, when it's already too late. That is why It is therefore imperative for us all to just avoid people involved in the occult, because they don't come to that recognition. They don't have that wisdom. They don't have it. They're sitting around in the body of Christ, many of them claiming to be believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, our brethren, our brothers and sisters, and yet, albeit sitting in church next to us in pews, out here, flailing their hands in the sky, singing the same psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs that we sing, are on a Wednesday evening consulting Isangoma. Can't reconcile how they're able to do that. I'm trying to snatch even them out from the flames of hell to make them realize that all that hypocrisy, that duplicitousness is not going to fly in the kingdom of heaven. However, absent of their redemption, they ought to be avoided. If they don't repent, they must be treated like crazy people that must just be walked away from in the streets. Why? Because that's what God said we should do with the wicked. When you live in a world that has got a whole bunch of people that don't see him because they're on the broad road that leads to destruction that many enter into, when you're dealing with that kind of phenomenon, you cannot trust humanity to turn to Jesus, but you can protect yourself as an individual from the ramifications of humanity's indiscretion with those that are busy Stockholm Syndrome appreciating their hostage taker, the devil. People in the occult are actively playing with a Satan they know is Satan. A devil they know is bad, a devil they have experienced mistreatment at the hands of, but one that they have nonetheless made a best friend. I do not understand it, even in the slightest. I will never ever get it, but in the attempt to snatch them out from the flames of hell, they all are trying to finish me off, because that's just what it is that happens when you join the occult. You become super duper defeatist. Even when people who genuinely care about you are trying to snatch you from this place where you're being stolen from, killed and destroyed, they then try to finish you off for trying to rescue them from their self-destruction. So essentially, they become what would be the equivalent or tantamount of a masochist, absolutely adoring of pain they inflict on themselves. They inflict pain on themselves. The devil displays to them after some time of them hanging out with him that he is a thief, that he is a destroyer and a murderer. It becomes very clear, and yet they can't help but keep on going, because that's what happens once you are gaunt, emaciated, and facing death because of a cocaine addiction, isn't it? You know that this thing has destroyed you. Low-key, you wish you'd never started, but for some strange reason, you was about to take that last line that's going to be the final overdose that's going to take you to eternity. They know they've got a bad habit, and yet they can't let go. And when then they are awarded an olive branch to get out, when some caring Christian is out here in a triage mode, trying to dress their wounds and help them come out from this dark realm of darkness. They try to kill that Christian. Sometimes they're so brazen as to actually try to win that Christian over for the cocaine addiction. Like, you are gaunt, emaciated, unseemly. Nothing of you is comely. Nothing of you is attractive anymore. There are, if anything, ostentatious displays on your body of destruction. They are yawning and screaming 24 hours a day, saying this here human being is at the precipice of death. It is a precarious situation, albeit having evidence of that nature, gawking at this fading human being. They dare have the brazen audacity to actually try to recruit you looking that gaunt. Their lives are finished off. And because your life is still in a suffering state as a Christian, they try to recruit you for their kingdom, albeit having these never mind gray circles under their eyes, but they're just flat out black. The human being is already in the abyss. It's only a matter of time before they drain the fire with their body, because their souls are in there and they're trying to make you see where they're coming from. I do not get it. But then again, I don't have to get it. I only have to read the scriptures, because God does say in his word that the things of God are like foolishness to the man who is perishing. He also said that God does not, no one can come to Jesus unless the Father draws them to Christ. So when some people are just recalcitrant all the way to the end, despite being like those cocaine addicts I'm using as an analogy, gaunt, when they insist on finishing themselves off, it's, it just confirms the sovereignty of God and salvation. It just confirms that indeed some people are predestinated to destruction, because it does not matter how much you can table an argument intelligently in their midst, because they lack wisdom. Putting words together eloquently or tabling an argument, it achieves no end result in this regard, because wisdom is what is required to do a better thing. they have natural intelligence with no wisdom. And on top of that, it appears they've been made reprobate. Indeed, God has given them a strong delusion, handed them over to their debased lies. And in that debased state that they are chilling in, are entirely unable, seeing as God has blinded the minds of unbelievers. Seeing as God has seen it fit to keep them in that state because they have not loved the truth, and the devil is the one rather that has blinded the minds of unbelievers. Seeing as they have chosen to embrace destructive heresies and doctrines of demons, you watch a person that is observably gaunt spiritually. They can see themselves in the mirror that they're but a whiff of what they used to be, and they allow themselves to just fade away. They allow themselves to just get finished off because they wear, just like their father the devil, this gargantuan pride that says, I'm gonna finish what I started. Literally cutting your own nose in order to spite your face. Going to hell, knowing that deep down inside that's exactly where you're going. When people are that psychotic, when they've lost their minds that exquisitely, goodness gracious, guys, why are you talking with them? Why are you joining the occult in your numbers? I don't get it. Why are you allowing yourselves to get recruited into the kingdom of darkness? Why are you letting yourself get taken away by the tsunami of people that are observably insane? They're observably gaunt. You cannot tell me that you do not see what the end result of demonic worship over the long run does to people. Only look at how borderline catatonic celebrities are after years of being in the entertainment industry because of their involvement in the occult. Guys, it is observable. So if you cannot reach inferences as a human being that this thing does not make sense, when a woman starts out as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, pink-faced and fresh as Doja Cat, and then ends up what Doja Cat is today, how is anybody trying to join that industry? How is anybody trying to end up like Beyonce? How is anybody trying to end up like Madonna? How is, Sam Smith is for me the be-all and end-all of the baddest example in the game. How does anybody go from what Sam Smith started out in when he was still singing, they call me crazy, for you don't think I know what you've done? You get my point. The very first album he ever did, You and Me, We Made a Vow. How does Sam Smith go from that to what under heaven it is that he recently did in that music video of his Unholy? How, guys? A fraction of who he used to be. Fraction. Glory absolutely exsanguinated out of him. Like blood drunk as through a straw, vampirically, has that man been exsanguinated. And if he does not seek out restoration, he will wake up one day in eternity and be like, but how did I let myself fall apart so terribly? It's treacherous what happens. We have seen it. We have made observations of these people plummeting. They are spiritually gaunt. They are spiritually gaunt. In other words, they have been sapped. They've been drained. Something has been vacuumed out of them. It is evident. It is so evident. And people are content to go down that path. Observable self-destruction. However, dwelling in a nihilism, how can you be nihilistic when there is something so ominous as what it is that is making celebrities turn so dark? How in the world are you going to be nihilistic? How are you going to think you die and thereafter nothing happens? Obviously something tapered a whole thriving soul to hell. Something took a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, pink-cheeked woman and made her gaunt. And if at all that thing exists, how are you going to be nihilistic because it comes from the spirit realm? When you know that spirits exist, you cannot be nihilistic because there obviously must be a creator. There must be some force in the cosmos that is a balancing act to this evil world that can turn people from what Doja Cat used to be to what she is now today. However, there are people who are making a decision to reverse the work that Doja Cat is in. There are people who choose to go from what Doja now is back to the pink of health, meaning there is something balancing. There is something retracting. There is something recalibrating scales. There is something restraining the extremity of evil from finishing its work on earth. And if at all you have made an observation of depths of wickedness unraveling in a woman's life or a man's life, but you've also made an observation of a person recovering from the filth of night, you know that there is somebody that can pull people back in. Why then are you remaining nihilistic when you've got all this evidence? You've got so much evidence to the contrary of the darkness that is apparently the way out of poverty. You have got evidence that is starkly gawking at you, saying there is one who restores from whatever happened to them. Because look at her, she came out. There is evidence. Why are you not investigating it? Especially when, upon observing those that are now gaunt, you see that something's been stolen from them, but guess what they have lots of? Material possessions. Guess what they have lots of? Attention, popularity, fame. That's what they have. But how many people in all of that joy, ultimately, when you read their biography or when you learn of them much later on in life, now that they've gotten older, are just these like fragments of themselves. They're finished off. They died without anybody knowing them. Lots and lots. Lots and lots. The huge majority of celebrities, if they die old, die unknown. They just wither away. Like glory just absolutely smothered, snuffed out. Fractions of who they used to be. Meaning that money is not the thing that awards glory, nor joy, nor peace. Neither is fame or popularity. It is holiness, piety, true goodness, a relationship with God. That is the only thing that works. And these are the only people that die honorable, the only ones. But people are chasing after their hostage taker because he's offering them absolution from the possibility of ending up dead like everybody else. The devil steals from all of us. He kills all of us. He destroys all of us. But there are others that he goes to and says, you don't have to be like the rest of them. I can give you what it is that you lost. He rips things from your life and then he says, I can give them back. That is the devil that you have come to adore. That is exactly what consulting a sangoma is exactly doing. You are consulting with Satan. When you do witchcraft, you are consulting with Satan. So therefore, essentially reducing yourself to a psychiatric case, a mental case. You reduce yourself to one who has a deep psychosis. But unfortunately, humanity is flooding to people with deep psychoses. That's why the entertainment industry is so rich with attention. People are flooding to them instead of avoiding them like we used to as children on the come up. We avoided the crazy man because it was just safer to do so. But the world is flooding to the crazy man. And so the crazy man is punching them. He's afflicting them. The crazy man is endangering their lives. And so with nobody avoiding this crazy man, we then, who are sober, it appears in a world full of crazy people following after crazy men and women. All we can do is stand from a distance and be like, but like, this is bizarre. Look at how many injuries have been endured as a result of these kids playing with the crazy man. Just look at the casualties. Look at the cadavers strewn on the floor. Like, this is a multi-car vehicle pileup. This here is carnage. And yet nobody is opening up their eyes to recognize the self-destructive practice of dabbling with demons. To try and get a job, God promised you a job if you wait for him. To try and get you a husband, God said he will give you that if you pray for him, if you wait for him. God promised you children if you pray and wait. The Lord can give you perfectly that which the devil claims he can award you. Why not wait on Christ? Exactly, because you are without the Holy Spirit. For he's the one that indwells patience in us. To wait for what appears to be ridiculous amounts of time to ultimately get what we need that is good and perfect, for it is from above and from the Father of heavenly lights. It does not come from the father of lies, but from the Father of heavenly lights. So we know that when it ultimately comes into our doorsteps, it's perfect. It's unmarred. It's not charred. It doesn't have a dark ribbon on it. It is perfect, and it's going to bless the whole environment around us. We are going to be salt and light with this awesome gift. It is impatience and ill-gotten gain and greed that is causing a society of people to give their lives to their hostage taker. And I'm imploring others still to avoid all these people that are happy to give themselves over to the hostage taker. Why? Because they literally officially have got a mental illness. People who dabble with the occult are mentally ill. They're mentally ill. And this is why I say they're mentally ill. We shall communicate that in the next part.